Hey, what's going on, Ryan here with Intersection Records. I wanted to talk about the passing of George Foreman, former heavyweight champion, two-time heavyweight champion, dies at the age of 76. Really with an illustrious career inside and outside of the ring. He was born in Marshall, Texas in 1949 and rose up through the amateur ranks, won the gold medal in Mexico City in 1968, and was a bruising heavyweight. He was just a big puncher, could devastate people. He ultimately, after Joe Frazier gets the title through an elimination process while Ali was out of boxing, Frazier ends up beating Muhammad Ali, solidifying his championship, and then it's time to face a challenger in George Foreman in 1973, and George Foreman just destroys Joe Frazier. He knocks him down 6 times. I think he knocks him down 4 times in the first round, where he's saved by the bell, and then 2 additional times in round 2, and the fight's over, and he's the champion. Just literally ragdolled Joe Frazier and knocked a man down 6 times. Knocked a heavyweight champion, 6 times. Down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. Howard Cosell famously says. He has a couple defenses of his title, and by 1974, it's time to fight Muhammad Ali, who's lost to Frazier, who's gotten his jaw broken by Ken Norton at Yankee Stadium the previous year. People were worried that George was going to kill Ali, who was getting older, or really severely hurt an aging champion. But of course, Ali goes in there in Zaire in the Rumble in the Jungle and dismantles Foreman, outsmarts Foreman, uses Foreman's strengths against him and tires him out and knocks him out, I think in the 7th or 8th round. Foreman considers retiring there in 1974, but he does continue to fight, has crazy fights with Ron Lyle and Jimmy Ellis and Ken Norton. He fights Frazier again and knocks Frazier out. They have to stop the fight, I think, in the 2nd round because he's going to hurt the guy. The clashing of the styles, the way that Frazier lunges in and the way that George comes like this at you, was just a perfect setup for Foreman. In 1977, I think in Puerto Rico, he fights Jimmy Young, Foreman does, and loses a decision to Jimmy Young, and he retires and becomes an ordained minister, goes back to Texas, and is a preacher for 10 years. By the way, side note again, check out the Ron Lane fight. Ron Lane? Yeah. It's a must-see fight. It's one of the great fights of all time. In 1987, Foreman comes out of a 10-year retirement. And I remember the fights being on and thinking, he looks big. He's bald now. He looks out of shape, but he's like 270 pounds. He's like 6'3", 270. Fighting again. He starts on USA TV, and he starts beating some guys. He ultimately fights Jerry Cooney in 1991 and famously knocks him out. He beats Burt Cooper. So he's starting to fight some guys that are a little more highly regarded. And by 1991, he fights Evander Holyfield. And it's a great fight. He loses to Holyfield in a decision, but he has Holyfield hurt at times. This is now a comeback that's legitimate. He loses that fight, but he gains the respect of the boxing community because now he's fighting the young guard. Okay, he's fought Ken Norton and Joe Frazier and Ali. Now he's fighting Holyfield in his prime. Loses a great fight there. Ends up losing to Tommy Morrison in another great fight in 1993. But he's still fighting. And by 94, late 94, I think, he fights Michael Moore, who has gotten the belt, who got the belt from Evander Holyfield. And he knocks out Michael Moore and becomes the oldest heavyweight champion of all time at the age of 45. He ends up holding that into his 46th year, at which point he vacates the title, has a few more fights, ends up losing one last fight to Shannon Briggs, finishes career 76-5. Losses to Jimmy Young, Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield, Tommy Morrison, and Shannon Briggs. 66 by knockout, 71-5 with 66 knockouts. Of course, in 1989, he launches the George Foreman Grill and makes millions and millions of dollars off of that type of advertising. He's on commercials the rest of his life. He is a ring personality and a commentator. He's an American treasure and is on TV and game shows. I think he had a sitcom. He ends up fathering 12 children, 5 boys, all of which are named George Foreman. He said, at least we'll all have something in common. And 7 granddaughters. Again, George Foreman was a bigger-than-life personality. Going from his 70s persona, where he was the villain, right, against an Ali, to being almost as big as Ali in the 90s and 2000s as a personality, and really, in a way, being bigger than Ali because of, in the sense that he's able to communicate where Ali couldn't later in his career. He is this representation of boxing and a great sport that it was, and fought in 2 distinct eras, the 70s and the 90s. 2 incredible heavyweight eras. Rest in peace, George, who dies at the age of 76 in Houston, Texas. You really were just an amazing, like I said, in and out of the ring, and you will be missed. Rest in peace. We talk about music on this channel normally. Check out my channel if you like good rock music, reviews, and so forth. Peace out. See ya.